How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. So, what are we talking about today?
Comfort zones.
Wow, love that. So, I know we're both very comfortable with each other, but other than that, what is your comfort zone?
Um, my comfort zone is things that things that I feel come very naturally to me,
Hmm.
right? Things that don't things are predictable actually.
Hmm.
So my comfort zone would be things that I know exactly how it's gonna go.
Because I think that's true for me too. And I think whether it is being with the people that I already know and feel safe with, so that's one comfort zone. And I think at work also, doing things that now I'm comfortable doing or I know, I don't feel like lost or uncertain about. So I think, those tend to be my comfort zones.
So going off of that, we always hear this narrative of like, you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to get out of your comfort zone. Do you? I mean, if it's a comfort zone for a reason, right? It works.
So, you know, to answer that, I just want to refer to an article I read a couple of years ago, which was not really on comfort zone, but it was about being your authentic self, right? Similar to comfort zone for me. And what it said was that, a lot of times we use the excuse of being authentic to not want to grow, right? And I think actually, when I thought about it, I think there is a difference between being authentic and saying I'm like that only. And I think it's similar even when it comes to comfort zones, right? So, like we both said, it's something that we are comfortable, which is like we don't have to think too much about. We are naturally that way, it just flows. However, there are situations in life that may require you something more than that from you, right? So I'm not saying that it's like a rule that you must come out of your comfort zone. So I'm not one of those advocates. I think being in your comfort zone or being comfortable with where you are and who you are, there's a lot you can do. However, I do think that it does require you to reflect from time to time, right? What is the situation needing? And will me staying with my comfort in my comfort zone help? Or do I need to stretch a bit? And what will that stretch look like?
Mm.
Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm of similar thought where I'm not like you have to leave your comfort zone. Why? Just because.
Exactly.
Leaving the comfort zone isn't easy, right? It's not just that, like you said, getting out of it in a week. Uh, it's so much more than just a decision to leave the comfort zone. And I think something for me personally that has played like a really big role in trying something like that is having people around me that are willing to go through that change with me. Because if I'm going through the change, I am changing the dynamics, how others are operating. I'm changing how I'm responding to situations. So having people that are also open and like
Hmm.
are willing to go along and grow and be supportive while you try this
Hmm.
thing, I think that just plays just such a big role.
Yeah. And do you always find people who are going through such a change? Because I'm looking back and I can't see, like, because, you know, I can't find somebody who was going through pushing their boundaries at the same time as me, possibly. Like they seemed comfortable where they were
Mm.
already, where I was trying to get to. So that's why I'm asking, like, do you find people like that whenever you're trying?
Actually, no. Now that you've mentioned it, no. uh, so while there is sometimes pushback, I do find people willing to make space for me to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Totally. So you're finding people who are aware that you're trying to push a boundary and they're creating that space for you to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's true. And yet sometimes you're just on your own, right?
Yes.
Just like pushing the mountain alone.
That's also quite an enjoyable experience because that's very so when you are alone, I feel like it's very uncharted.
Hmm.
And so for me, so right, so if you're saying from like a couple of years ago to now you've made this big shift. Couple of years ago, I would be the most laid back person. I'm just absolutely unplanned. I have no idea what's going to happen during my day. I will just wing it. I've
Right.
turned up to competitions and be like, what competition is this? To everyone's confusion, um, I am somebody who's just absolutely in love with my Excel sheets.
Wow. That's a great place to be at.
Forget where I'm going to be. I know where everyone else is going to be. And so while it has been like a really it has been very beneficial in terms of professional or in terms of just getting life together, my drive towards it is all my friends are going into different fields. And if one of us doesn't get it together, we're going to lose touch.
Hmm. Nice.
And while it started at that very personal need to stay connected, I think it just, so that was a solo journey,
Right.
right? And everybody was on their own different journeys then. So while it started very personally, I think it really evolved into like a new normal.
Wow. That's so nice. So you actually have other friends on their own solo journeys, which have now become like a community of people pushing boundaries for themselves. Wow.
So how does it usually go for you when you push through a comfort zone? Nobody else signed up to do
Right.
it.
I'm going through that right now, these days. And so on different days, I think I deal with it differently. And, I was reflecting on what's going on within me as I'm trying to make this shift currently. And I realized that very unconsciously, I think there's a process, right? So the first thing is, trying to just understand what is the gap I need to fill, right? And sometimes it just seems too far, too big, and it overwhelms me, right? And I think one of the things that I do try and do is, whoever are the critical stakeholders, like I do try to keep them informed that, boss, I'm going through this. I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. And I just need some space, right? And so I think I set a pace and I set expectations, right? Because I mean, the case that I'm referring to is at work, right? I'm sort of needing to do something that's totally new for me, and I'm just trying to find my way through things. And I think when I do that, firstly, I get support. A safe space gets created for me where I earlier felt I was alone. And I think the other thing that also happens is that I'm able to park things a little, that I'm able to say that, okay, right now I'm feeling overwhelmed, I need to take some time out from this, and I'm going to look at it again from a fresh perspective tomorrow and deal with it tomorrow. Right now, this may carry on for a few days, it may carry on for a week, but the thing is that I do keep talking about it, with people who I think can help me make sense of the way I'm feeling and how I can navigate it. So I think I tend to, part of the process is to be vulnerable and open. I'm hoping, working on getting through this soon. And, it's not about having all the answers, right? But it's about just shifting to a place where you have a bigger view of what needs to get done from the view that I have currently. Just that climb up the mountain to get that bigger view. I mean, that for me is the stretch at the moment.
Just comfort zones and being introverts. I think introverts specifically, we tell ourselves that, we are like this only, we like small groups, we don't like to talk to too many people, or, you know, this is who we are. We get really attached to the idea, and sometimes that really comes in the way of trying new things or putting yourself out there.
I think the charge or the energy that I feel when I'm by myself doing something versus when I'm in a group or community uh, poles apart, right? And there is merit in both, undoubtedly, but definitely, I think having that time by myself, even if after an intense team meeting, it is about being alone in a cab to go home. I think that itself is energizing for me.
So, how do you recharge after you have pushed a boundary, or how after you've done something out of your comfort zone?
So, I don't think I have like a prescribed ritual, right? But there are some things that I find comfort in. It could be gardening. It could be just sitting by myself doing some crochet. It could be watching some new show on TV. It could be making a call to some family member, you know. So it could be any of this. And, it's only when I feel ready to face people that I know that, okay, I'm recharged enough to now come out and face the world. So otherwise, I'm pretty much doing my own thing, so to say.
Lovely. A lot of those things, same, yes, crochet gang. Uh, but I found a really fun way of recharging. So, but I think the benefit of that is also having other introverted friends where we do these solo activities, but as a group. So if you
Wow.
walk, yeah, so
What's that?
so if you walked in, it would look like we're at like some kind of a play school or something, because we're together. It's but we're all engaged in these, like a crochet or like painting or reading. So we're engaged in these solo activities, but we're all physically in the same space. And as we recharge, as the time goes, we just, we keep having conversations in the middle. We keep, um, it's quality time. It still feels like quality time, right? So it's a
Wow.
bit best of both worlds.
Yeah. Like I was saying earlier, I'm just so envious that you have a group like that, a community like that, friends like that. That's so nice. So you actually
I
created your own support structure in a way.
I have, and I think the benefit of that is also only hanging out with psychologists helps.
Yes.
Maybe that's a comfort barrier I need to push. Do we outgrow our comfort zones or do they outgrow us? Do you feel like we answered this?
I think we have somewhat touched upon it. And I think we outgrow our comfort zones, right? Because depending on the situation we find ourselves in, or the challenge that life has thrown at us, we suddenly realize that the comfort zone we were in may be bankrupt, right? So we do need to stretch and expand.
I think sometimes we need to outgrow our comfort zones. Like we feel the need, the opposite of you changing and everyone else being supportive. Sometimes everything else around you is changing and you sticking to something that you have chosen to identify with. So like again, introversion. If I'm choosing to say, well, I don't talk to people or I
Hmm.
don't talk to new people. At some point, I do recognize that I start missing out on things. So sometimes it's the other way around, where everyone else around you is moving and You're not here because you're like, this is your space. You're just here because this is familiar.
Hmm.
Or like, shifting is scary.
And the thing is,
Ah,
no one else knows what is brewing inside you, right? I mean, it's really for you to gauge and then move ahead.
yeah,
Hmm.
because I mean, from the outside, everyone also has a perception of you, right? So this is just who you are.
Yeah. And I think if I go by, the perception people have of me, according to them, I'm always challenging my comfort zone. That's not the
I
image I have
agree
of
with
myself
them.
at all. No. So for them, I'm like, I really put myself out there and stuff like that. And that's not the image I have of myself. I know what it takes for me to do that.
Same. I have had so many arguments because people refuse to let me keep my introvert badge. And you're always putting yourself out there. I'm like, it has taken me so much to be here. I am going to go hide after this.
Right. I know what you mean. Totally. I've gotten a little better. I may not need to hide.
Can you fail at growth?
That's a tough one to answer. But the immediate answer that's coming to me is yes, right? Because when you're attempting to grow, it's like taking a risk, right? Like you're just saying that, okay, this is an area where I need to grow. Let me go for it. And just like risk, sometimes they work, sometimes they may not. Yeah, but when we talk about growing out of our comfort zone, if we think talk about that, I feel that even even if we fail at growth or we don't achieve the outcome that we wanted to or we initially set for ourselves, the process of the stretch itself gets us to a new place. So it's like, for example, this, I was talking about where I am currently, and, I'm needing to sort of think more strategic, think more big picture than the way I'm used to thinking, right? And I'm finding that very uncomfortable because I've not seen things that way. It doesn't come naturally to me. I'm wondering, what are the different lenses I need to bring to this thinking. I'm feeling a little lost about it. Uh, but I think what I'm talking about with reference to growth is that even if I don't get that outcome, which is that, I would have become a strategic thinker, and I can sort of see everything from this big picture point of view. Making this stretch will still get me to a place that's going to be a better place than where I am today. So I don't know whether, the answer is yes or no to your question, but I mean, it is a risk.
Hmm. So it's almost looking at the process that is the achievement versus, whether or not you reach a certain milestone. Yes.
Exactly. What do you think about it?
For me, like a funny example is while going from complete nonchalance to somebody who I just wanted to be somebody who was more organized, right? I overshot. I gave myself anxiety.
Okay. Say something
um,
more about overshot. Like, where did you end up?
so that's the thing, right? So I went from somebody who was just absolutely chill, and I was just so some of the good things that came from being that chill is also I was very open to anything that was going to happen. When you're
Hmm.
not prepared, you don't feel underprepared.
Hmm.
So there was a certain courage and a certain openness to risk that I lost along the way while trying to be organized.
Hmm. That
Was
spontaneity, that just
yeah,
flowing.
exactly. Spontaneity, right? Uh, so now I'm like, so now I reached a point where I'm just like, oh, I haven't prepared yet. I'm not ready to try something new, or I think I need to research this more. But I think that I've just reached that point where this is now my comfort zone, where I'm just using this as an excuse to not try new things or not take a risk, or I'm just using this to stay now here.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to work myself back to a happy middle ground between completely not knowing my day to being open to some spontaneity.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you talk about overshooting, because I have found that with a lot of leaders that we coach, when they are, suppose they are somebody who's very, you know, not introvertish, but they're not very assertive. They tend to remain very calm and empathetic with their team members, right? And they are required to be more assertive, right? So I have often found that when they are working on that change, they go the other end, right? Where suddenly the feedback we start to get is become very aggressive. We did not know he had a voice, but sometimes it's just like over what's needed, stuff like that. So, and I think that's to do with the making a change, right? It's like, if change is like a pendulum, you're at one end, you're trying to shift to the other. So finding the balance and coming towards the center does take a while. So yeah, I can totally relate to what you were saying about suddenly from that, being nonchalant, moving to being structured and feeling that you've lost your spontaneity. I can get that.
I
Hmm.
think is the extension of that is also it takes so much energy and
Hmm.
motivation to make like a change like that. Like so if a leader is not assertive, if somebody is like very friendly, to go from that to saying no and being assertive, right? I think all of that energy is sometimes just like you don't know where to stop.
Yeah. And that's something, that we keep sort of talking to them about and through the sessions so that they can find the balance faster before, you know, having causing too much damage.
So here I have a question. How do you know if you're trying to leave your comfort zone or you're trying to be somebody that you're not, or somebody that's just inauthentic to you?
I think it's the discomfort that you experience, right? So, and I think, it is not just, uh, I think for me, it's like a lot of physical discomfort also that I experience, right? So, like, I feel sort of strains in my body, pains in my body. And I also feel, like my mind space seems to be occupied. I feel a little not in control of myself because I'm out of my comfort zone, right? So I'm like making the journey. So I think that these are some of the sensations and emotional states that I've experienced about myself that tells me that okay, you're on a journey.
So how do you differentiate the discomfort when you're trying to make a change versus so my question is how do you know if you're trying to be somebody that you're not?
See, moving out of my comfort zone means that, right?
Mm.
So being in my comfort zone is the way I know myself. Uh, I'm being who I think I am. And when I'm feeling that discomfort, feeling uncomfortable, then it means that I'm trying to be somebody that I don't relate to myself as as yet, right? And the journey is to feel comfortable being that kind of person. Yeah. So like for example, you know, I used to be a total introvert. And from that, I've gotten to a place where, at least when I'm in a social setting, I'm not just sitting next to the lamp. I've spent many evenings doing just that and get-togethers, right? Just looking at the lamp and appreciating the art, sitting in one corner and being
Hanging
told, "You're
out with the
such a good
pet.
listener." Totally. And being told, "You're such a good listener. You're so observant," right? To getting to a place where there's somebody sitting next to me, at least I can talk, make small talk. I may not be very relevant or meaningful, but I'm not just sitting in silence. Yeah, so I think you know that you're being somebody who you don't relate to yourself as being.
What do you think keeps us in our comfort zone or keeps us playing it safe?
So I think like both of us shared at the beginning that it is being in a comfort zone is what is familiar, what where we feel safe. So I think definitely that feeling, that experience of feeling safe, feeling comfortable, being familiar with what's needed and required. I think that is something that keeps us in the comfort zone. And I think the other thing is, stepping out of the comfort zone is risky, right? You don't know what you'll become, or whether you'll recognize the person you become, or what you'd start to do. And, right now, you know that there is a certain acceptance of who you are and the way you are. I think it's also that fear that, will people like me? Can I just stay this way and feel comfortable at being liked? So I think it's a combination of some of these things for me.
Yeah, I think along very similar lines, will people like me if I change? It definitely is a you feel like you are in the space that you are because of the qualities that you have,
Hmm.
right? So if I'm talking about my change, there was a lot of what if I lose my spontaneity?
Hmm.
And what if I stop having fun?
Yeah.
And those were very genuine concerns. But I think for me, what I told myself is, well, there's only one way to find out.
Hmm. Wow. That
That was
takes courage.
50% right. So, yeah, it's correct. Um, I was, what I found is my definition of spontaneity and fun has evolved
Hmm.
as a result. Which was something that I wasn't expected. Right. So, was I
Hmm.
right that I lost certain elements? Yes. But I think those elements have become something more
Hmm.
now as a result, right? Um, so an example of me working my way back from overshooting uh, is I was at a friend's Sangeet,
Hmm.
and I am not somebody who dances in public. I am not somebody who dances, period,
Right.
right? But I knew that, these are my people and this person means a lot to me. And like the worst thing that's going to happen is there is going to be an embarrassing video.
Right.
And it's a terribly embarrassing video, but I'm really glad that I did it. It's
Right.
not it's not that scary now that I've done it.
Wow. Wow. I
I'm
can
not going
just
to do
imagine what that took you.
so much. I was shivering. I am not going to now perform at the next wedding, but at least it's not something that has me, wanting to just disappear into the shadows, run away from the venue.
And I think, for me, recently, if I think about something that I where I stepped out of my comfort zone in my personal life is, when I was getting my daughter married in Feb. So, everything to do with planning that wedding. So for example, just the number of people I had to speak to invite, the kind of things that were needed to take care of people. Uh, sure enough, my daughter is a great dancer, and she has a Instagram page just where she keeps posting dance videos. And for her, one of the purposes of getting married was to dance and to have people dance. Right. So, and my husband was clear he's not going to be doing any of that. And so I think I took on that responsibility that, when it's so important to her, I will, you know, dance. And so luckily I have a friend who's a choreographer. So we roped her in, took some lessons with her over Zoom. And, on the day of the Sangeet, I mean, the day we had to perform, I kept telling her, is there some way I can get out of this? I don't want to do this. I'm so uncomfortable. So throughout my childhood, I've danced alone in my bathroom, right? But dancing in public, just like you, it was a total no-no. And, ultimately it was like you're the bride's mother. So you have to be there. Some of the other friends can be knocked off, not you. Right. So I thought dancing with friends was a safer bet than doing a solo. And, and then, I realized that it was important for me to change why I was going to do it. So rather than being a performer or performing for people, I made it about having fun and expressing my love for my daughter. Right. And I think that made a huge difference because suddenly who was there, who was doing what, whether they were even looking, not looking, were they judging, just didn't matter. For me, it was about expressing my love and just having fun. And, to my surprise, like, when the videos recently came, the photographer gave the videos and all. My daughter, who's the dancer, actually told me, Mama, you always said you couldn't dance. You weren't bad, yeah. I thought, wow, life is made. So I think, these little things, they just bring so much joy when you actually get it right. But till then, it's a struggle when you're going through it.
That's a beautiful story. I'm glad you had that.
Yeah. I think for both of us, it ended with dancing, right?
Dancing, yeah.
Which, if you ask anybody on our team also, I don't think they'll put the two together.
No. No.
In fact, even in that recent photo shoot that we had, right, where we were meant to select our favorite track and sort of just ease our way into it, I was just so like, it was difficult for me.
Yes, yes. I mean, I had my favorite song playing, and they were like, move like you normally would. And I'm like, this is
I
my
wouldn't,
normal.
or I wouldn't move, I would
Yeah.
sit and listen to it.
Okay. On that wonderful note, thank you, Sangeeta, for a wonderful conversation.
Thanks,
This
Balqis. This
yeah.
has been so good. So
Yes.
good to always chat with you. And I'm glad we just have so much in common that emerges in these discussions and chats. So it's
Yeah.
fun.
Yes. I think we're the right people to talk about comfort zones.
Yes. Especially, with being introverts, I think it's it's been good. And you
Yes.
selected right.